What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another video. If this is your first time stopping in, thank you for joining me. I've got a really exciting one today. We are installing a brand new set of Ohlins 779 rear resi shocks on my 2024 Harley Davidson Road Glide. These shocks just came out, so we're going to go over ease of install, fitment, and kind of a comparison between these and why I went with this route versus some of the other brands such as Legends or the Screaming Eagle Ohlins from Harley Davidson. So without further ado, let's jump in. You guys, so jumping right on in here, as I said, this is a new offering from Ohlins. Here we have the resi mounts, got some basic instructions and installation hardware. So this stuff is new compared to the HD779 part number. These will have black hoses, black anodized knobs, metal, aluminum knobs now instead of plastic. They've got a gold adjuster nut here. They went from having the whole Ohlins symbol to just the Ohlins umlaut. As you can see here, we now have that black anodized aluminum knob and that black hose. So this is a new offering. This was just released from them a little over a week ago, and these things are pretty sweet. So we're gonna go ahead and get these completely unboxed and go right into reading the instructions on how to slap these on the bike. This should be very straightforward. Pull the saddlebags, pull the stock shocks, throw these on. That's it. So let's figure them out. All right, you guys, these are absolutely gorgeous. I cannot wait to see them on the bike and feel how they ride. Now, I said I am going to go over a detailed description as to why I went with the Ohlins ones instead of any of the other market offerings. Just know up front that it was not just because Ohlins is a cool race brand. I actually do have reasoning for it. And actually, a little funny tidbit is it has nothing to do with these rear shocks. So stay tuned for that information. All right, so as most of our upgrades go, first things first, remove the saddlebags. All right, easy enough. We're gonna go ahead and remove these stock shocks one at a time so the back end doesn't drop, and kind of go from there. Probably a good idea to first take a look at the instructions though, so we're gonna go ahead and do that right now. All right, you guys, so first thing we need to do before we remove the rear shocks is get the rear tire pretty much weightless off of the ground here. I don't have proper tools, so I'm using a jack right on that jacking point in the middle of the bike here. And then I have jack stands on both sides under my flat out bar. That works really well for doing oil changes as well. As you can see here, the bike is rested well on those jack stands. Not the right way to do it. Eventually I'll get a lift, but for now, this is what I've got. So we can go ahead and remove this rear shock here. It is a 19 on the top and bottom. So we're just gonna go ahead and zip these off. And that's all there is to that. All right, a little bit of blue Loctite on the original hardware. We are reusing that. There's no labeling for shock orientation, but I think I want the Ohlins logo and information on the spring on the outside. So I assume that's how they expect it to go. So we'll just go ahead and slip this on. Very straightforward. Perfect. Starting these by hand just to make sure I don't cause any issues. These are very large bolts though, so it's not too likely to strip those out. Okay, we got to start on them. Go ahead and buzz these down. All right, we'll obviously do a better tighten afterwards, but now we need to worry about the resi mount. All right, so according to the instructions, they want us to pre-assemble this stuff. We've got a really nice aluminum machined, milled Ohlins resi mount here. It's got the Ohlins, laser engraved into it. Very, very nice piece. We've got the adapters here. Goes this way. Yeah, can only go that way. So that's the way it goes. And they say blue Loctite, so a little bit of blue Loctite. Not a lot, just a little bit. Red blue crib and a little bit. Let me know if you guys are 50 Cent fans. Anyways, take that. Straightforward bracket there. Give those a nice tighten. As they say, that ain't going anywhere. All right, so now we can go ahead and mount these collars for the resis themselves. All right, so it's gonna be mounted on the bike like this. I'm gonna want this to sit on the inside so that you don't see it versus on the outside. So we're gonna go this direction. Yep, looks good to me. So flip it over, blue Loctite once again on another set of these screws. Get a nice final tighten on these. Good and tight. So now we should be good to mount these on the bike and then worry about putting the resi in and then tightening the clamp here down. So before we bring these over to the bike, keep in mind they have a few different size spacers. The ending in 04 you're only going to add on per the directions if you don't have docking hardware. I do have docking hardware, so it's just going to be these ones. You're going to go ahead and use one size in the front, one size in the back. I'll show you guys when we get to the bike on that. And so let's get over to the bike and check it out. All right, so the next thing we're gonna be doing is removing this T40 and this T45. I've already gotten them started. Just crank them out. So what we've got here is the longer spacer on the back one here. You've got the shorter one here, and we've got the supplied hardware that they provided us with blue Loctite. So we're just gonna go ahead and get those started. All right, that's good and tight. And run it right on into our clamp here. Center it top to bottom here, front to back here as best as we can. Looks good to me. We'll go ahead and tighten the clamp down. I'm going to leave a little bit of tension but still be able to rotate it just so that I get everything dialed in exactly how I want it. But this is looking pretty sweet. All right, you guys, we're just gonna blast this side out. I already showed you detailed on the other side. So we'll get all this stuff off and swapped over. And then we're gonna have to get into the meat and potatoes of this, which is setting this up for our specific needs. This is a very important part of this process. You can't just throw these on and ride away into the sunset. Just like with the stock ones, you do need to set these up for your weight, for what you're going to be adding weight-wise, whether it's a passenger, tour pack, etc. And then we need to get into the dampening. There's 3 different major settings that you can adjust within this suspension. So we'll get into all that. All right, stalker's out. Get some blue Loctite on these because we reuse those for the new shock. Now, if the bolt isn't lining up, like this one isn't here, I obviously need to bring the bike up a little bit. You can do that. Just jack it up a tiny bit, go back and check. And there we are. This stuff is not hard. You know, you may say to yourself, oh, I've never installed suspension before, so I don't know if I trust myself to do it. This is easy stuff. I don't have any specialty tools. I'm using a car jack. Obviously, like I showed you, I have a little bit of extra safety there, but you know, this is all stuff that you guys can do. I'd love to see you guys just knock this stuff out, save yourself some money. And time of your bike being down at the dealer. So, got those started. We're still going to torque those up later, but for now, let's go ahead and do the same thing we did on the other side, and that is remove the T40 and T45 here. So, same thing as before. I'm going to go ahead and assemble that bracket really quick, and I'm not going to film that because I already have. All right, we have our bracket all assembled just like before. And we'll go ahead and slip this right on in. This rear one is easier to start. It's going into the docking hardware. This front one is a pain because this whole subframe piece slides back, so you're gonna need to kind of torque it forward a little bit while tightening this down. Blue Loctite, one more bolt for that clamp. Go ahead and throw the resi in there. Whew. Guys, this looks freaking sweet. Still have full function of your tour pack. Oh man, yeah, that's it. So, try to get these lined up as straight as I can with the bracket here. Looks pretty good. Unfortunately, they put this Ohlins sticker super crooked on the actual resi. That sucks, because there's really nothing I can do about that. Bummer, guys. I do have spare stickers here, so it looks like I should just be able to, well, they're different. Yeah, they're different. They're too big. That's kind of a letdown. I guess I could totally contact them if I cared enough and have them send me another one, because that is just like, really? It's way crooked. Alright you guys, so now that we have the shocks all mounted up, they are looking awesome, but we need to torque those bolts down for the actual shock itself, and then we can get into talking about the settings for setting this stuff up, because it is pretty complicated, and this is the step where I think a lot of people would get nervous to do this themselves. So we'll jump in, get those torqued up. We're going to do 70 foot-pounds and keep it rolling. All right, 70 foot-pounds on both sides, good to go. All right, so now that we have these torqued to 70 foot-pounds, we've got everything else tight and secured, we are good to go ahead and start making our suspension settings. So what I've done here is I've set a piece of tape on both sides at the same exact spot above this bottom part of the shock here, and the wheel is free off the ground, and we're going to set our off-ground sag number. So basically what we're going to do is measure from here to here and get a setting for what it is off the ground, Then we're gonna put the bike on the ground, sit down on the bike, grab the brakes, kind of stomp on them a bunch, and bounce the bike up and down and get a good settlement. Once it's settled, we can go ahead and take our on-ground compressed sag measurement. Now that sag measurement is going to be dependent upon if you are wearing gear, if you are with a passenger, if you have a tour pack. So it's really important to kind of set the parameters for what you are going to be using. General rule of thumb for Harley Davidson baggers is between 25 and 30 millimeters of sag. So to adjust the preload or the sag, you're going to turn this top collar. So that's gonna be what we do first. Once we have the sag set where we want it, we can go ahead and worry about our rebound, which is down here. That's how fast the shock re-extends out after hitting a bump. And then up here is our compression, which is how we adjust how much it compresses on bumps. So the sag is really the important first step to setting up your suspension properly. And then, as I said, it changes depending on your weight. So for every extra 25 pounds, they say it's about 1 turn of this collar. So if you're adding a passenger, you would have to do 5 turns if your passenger was 125 pounds. Now, keep in mind, you can kind of split the difference on that type of stuff depending on if you're okay with a harder ride, with a little bit less sag, but that does change all of your suspension dynamic, all of your geometry and everything like that, a bunch of science. So I'm gonna set it with 1 extra turn, so I will be on that higher end of 25 millimeters. That way when I do put gear on or I throw my tour pack on with a couple of things in it, it still rides pretty dang good based on those settings, so I'm not having to take the saddlebags on and off to do that stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and take our measurement beforehand while the wheel is off the ground, and then we'll go ahead and set it down and measure it again and make sure that we have about 25 millimeters of sag. So check it out. All right, so we've got our tape set here and here. So now we can go ahead and measure from here to here before we set the bike down on the ground and sit on it. We're getting 12¼ inches. So we're gonna go ahead and pull the bike down off the jack now, and I'll sit on it, and then I'll have my dad measure it out, and it should be 25 millimeters. 25.4 millimeters is 1 inch, so we're just gonna be looking for 1 inch of drop, so that should put us at 11¼ inches, and make any adjustments that we need to here on the preload, and we'll get it all dialed in. I'll go ahead and sit on it, bounce a little bit, and then I'll have to have you come in and measure from exactly the top of that blue tape down to this Sharpie line, and it should be 11¼ inches here.
Okay.
And I do have dots right here for 11¼
Okay.
So that's what we should measure out at.
All right. It's a little bit over 11¼ just a tiny bit.
Okay.
I'd call it good.
Check the other side.
11¼ plus a 16th.
So too much sag right now. All right, so we have the sag set a little bit too tight right now. It's not compressing enough with me sitting on it, so we're gonna use this adjuster tool they provide, and we're gonna turn this up 1 turn. That should increase the sag a little bit, and then we'll remeasure it. All right, you guys, so we have the shocks now set at 11¼ from that 12¼ so 25.4 millimeters difference. Sag is set for my weight, so we're good there. Rebound, I'm not gonna know how I like until we put the bags on, put my gear on, and I go ride. And the same with the compression. So for now, we're good to go ahead and throw the saddlebags on and get a final look at this. And then through my riding, it won't be during this test ride, but through my riding over the next few weeks, I'll decide how much I want to adjust. This is just click, 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 click up and down for the rebound, which is how fast it rebounds as it comes back up. And then your compression is obviously your compression. So we'll go ahead and throw the saddlebags on and keep it moving. All right, so we've got the bike all tucked away here, but I did want to pull out my tour pack and throw it on for you guys and let you know exactly how you can expect your tour pack to fit with the Ohlins reservoirs back there. I know that's gonna be a question I get. So as you can see, we have plenty of clearance from the stock bracket here and the Ohlins. I'm able to fit a finger in between, no problem. So good clearance there, no issues whatsoever. And they look really cool back there with that. So yeah. All right, you guys, we've got the bags back on the bike. We've got it pulled out here to go ahead and wash it up. And then we will take a final look at the end result here. We'll go for a test ride, and then when we get back, hit you guys with my information as to why I went with the Ohlins versus any other brand. And outro, and that'll be that. So, cue the time lapse. All right, you guys, so we are out and ripping around a little bit, and right off the rip I can tell you this suspension is awesome. This is not just a placebo effect. You can really feel the difference in the way that it eats everything up in the road. Now obviously it's going to be completely up to you to dial your suspension in to a way that you like it and the way that it can outperform the stock suspension. The stock suspension is great. You know, I watched Cruzy talk about it as well, and he's like, you know, he dove into kind of what they've changed in them, you know, how they function, and they are good. But you know, obviously going this next level to these resi shocks adds a ton of adjustability with your rebound dampening and your compression, you know, and then obviously adjusting your sag for your weight depending on what you have, you know, in terms of luggage or passenger and whatnot. But if you take the time to set this stuff up for you, you're gonna love it, and you're gonna notice the advantages to doing them. So I'm already looking forward to doing the front forks next for those cartridges. That will be happening this winter when I'm okay with having the bike down. You know, right now I've got some motorcycle trips planned and things of the sort, so now's not ideal time to be doing engine work or suspension work. But that will be happening this winter, and yeah, so for now we get to enjoy the back and kind of, you know, fantasize and get excited about doing the front, and it'll make it that much more exciting when we do finally get to throw that stuff on. So I'm going to continue riding around a little bit. I may stop once or twice and adjust the rebound and compression a little bit, kind of figure out, you know, what I'm feeling based on the inputs that I'm doing. So like, let's say I do 3 clicks, do I notice a difference? Maybe 4 clicks, you know. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do all of that, maybe give you guys a couple more riding clips, and yeah, we'll get back to the house. And I want to talk about why I went with this suspension, why I didn't go with Legends, why I didn't go with, you know, any of the other, you know, stuff that you're seeing out there right now. And it really is not just the hype of the name. You know, I'm not one of those people that says, oh, well, if I spent more, it must be better, because that's not always the case, you know? So, yeah. I can even tell coming around that corner how the suspension articulates under load and then letting off. You don't get that gnarly little, just that little stomach dropping wobble. That really is a huge advantage to dialing in your suspension. And I won't say, you know, doing this suspension, because you can do a pretty dang good job with the stock stuff too, but taking the time to figure out your suspension front and rear and making it work together properly is a huge performance upgrade to any motorcycle, whether you're on the street, whether you're on the dirt. Oh, a little scrapage there. Those thrashing floorboards doing their part for me, those little TPU sliders. So yeah, we'll go ahead and keep on cruising, and might do a little bit of lane splitting for you on the highway, just a little fun little rep. Alright you guys, we are back from our ride. As you saw, the suspension is working really well. Looks good. I made a few adjustments on the ride, and I'm pretty happy with where I have it. Something to keep in mind, once you have your sag adjusted with the saddlebags on, to adjust your rebound under here, you can reach down and do it. My hand's on it right now. You do not have to pull the bags off to adjust your rebound, which is really nice. And then same thing with your compression up here, obviously, on the canisters. So pretty simple process. Like I said before, if you do need to adjust your sag for different weights and whatnot, it's 1 revolution of the ring for 25 pounds on both sides. And that's really no big deal. You know, I'm not going to make any suspension adjustments to the sag unless, you know, because if it's like just going to dinner, it's not worth it. But if you're going to be doing like a multi-day trip with your passenger and a tour pack or something like that, then yeah, I would consider doing that. You know, I have the saddlebags off to wash the bike anyway. I would make those adjustments for the sag for her weight and the gear and stuff, and then throw the bags on, because obviously I like to wash the bike before we go for trips anyway. So really no inconvenience there at all, and it's the same deal with you know, the stock Harley Davidson suspension. You got to pull off the saddlebag to adjust for different weight. So yeah, no inconveniences are added by, you know, switching the suspension in that aspect, and then obviously you have the adjustments that you didn't have prior, being that rebound and that compression. So very cool. I'm going to set you guys down now, and we're going to talk about why I chose these Ohlins. All right, you guys, so without further ado, the reason that I chose to go with Ohlins over Legends or some of the other options out there actually has nothing to do with the rear shocks. The front forks matching cartridges with the reservoir shocks in the rear, that is what actually influenced my decision. So Legends makes fantastic comparable option for the rear end of this bike, suspension-wise. But the forks are different. The Legends cartridges, you set all of your adjustments and slip them into your forks, and you're done. You seal them up, you mount them back in. You cannot make any adjustments to those cartridges once they are installed on the bike. So that means you set it and forget it, and hopefully you set it right. If you want to make adjustments to it because you spent over $1,000 on a set of cartridges, you have to completely disassemble your forks and readjust them and try again and hope that you got it right the second time. Ohlins and some of the other brands, they have dampening adjustment on the top that is exposed, meaning if I have a different nacelle here, or if I cut it out there, you can just do the CVO one is the cheapest way to do it. Or if you were to do a sweet triple tree, then you can leave it exposed, and that'd be cool too. But for me, if I'm spending the same amount of money, I'm going to go with a brand that gives you an option for adjusting your dampening and whatnot from the top of the forks. so that I can really fine tune them exactly how I want them. Am I going to make adjustments once I have it right? No, probably not. I might. Probably not though, but being able to put them in once, install them, they're done, and then make those adjustments as I see fit, really, really set the bar for me as like that's what I want and that's what I should have. So that was my ultimate deciding factor for going with the Ohlins. Ohlins is a fantastic product in the race scene as well. You know, I got a buddy with an R1, and that's like, you know, that's what he's got on his. Like that's, you know, you go to a racetrack and you're going to see a lot of these shock setups on any sort of bike out there. So that was my decision. You guys have to do your research and decide what works best for you. And I'm just giving you my information and my review of how I feel about the install and the ride quality. So I'm very happy with them. I'm very excited to go ahead and do the cartridges in the forks this winter. And I appreciate you guys and I appreciate you guys watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you have questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'll gladly get back to you. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe because we are always up to new cool things. So catch you guys in my next off week.